Hey guys, every so often I come across an article that I think is both funny, interesting, and dumb all at the same time. This is one of those articles. 10 things in the Star Wars sequels that George Lucas would have done too. Now, if you don't know, I do have a video about George Lucas's treatments. I'm not a fan. I don't understand how you could justify Darth Maul dying twice and coming back again after Obi-Wan kills him in Clone Wars. So, silly. Okay, that's my opinion of his idea of bringing them all back. I don't think that makes any sense. But anyways, I'm not going to read you that. Let's go right to it. So, focusing on Han and Leia's child. Child? No. Focusing on Han and Leia's children. Anakin's grandchildren. The sequels would have been about the daughter and the grandchildren. Yeah, you guys, what are you talking about?
JJ. What happened to Darth Vader's grandchildren?
This could imply that Lucas intended for Han and Leia to have more than one child, similar to Jaina and Jacen Solo in Legends. It's also more than likely that the Skywalker grandchildren would have become Jedi and at least been tempted by the dark side. Well, yeah, but that's not the same. He wouldn't have done Ben Solo. He would have done siblings. He wouldn't have done that.
What happened to Darth Vader's grandchildren?
Focusing on Han and Leia's child. No, focus on the children. So no, he would have done that. What they did was wrong. It wasn't correct. It was not what he wanted. It's just... What is this article, man? Luke's exile and death. Luke on an island. Lucas planned to focus more on Luke rebuilding the Order and wouldn't let him die until the last movie. So his death did not happen the way that George would have wanted it. He was only exiled for a certain amount of time, focusing on his Order. In the sequels, his Order is gone and he's a bum. He's cut himself off. He hates the Jedi. He badmouths the Jedi. What is this article? No, this is also false. 0 out of 2. No, George would not have done this. Just because he's on an island and George had him on an island doesn't make everything else the same. It's still completely different.
Maybe he's Jake Skywalker. He's not my Luke Skywalker.
A new Palpatine-Vader dynamic. Supreme Leader Snoke and Kylo Ren repeated the dynamic between Emperor Palpatine and Darth Vader. Did they, though? And Lucas planned on doing something similar. Darth Maul would have been the main villain of Lucas's sequels, uniting the criminal underworld to wage war against the fragile New Republic. I disagree entirely with the premise that it's similar at all, because in the Snoke-Ben dynamic, it's very much like a grumpy father, abusive father and son. It's not... Palpatine and Vader were more friends. Yeah, there were moments where Palpatine kind of shamed him to a degree, but never like what Snoke did. He would never talk to Vader like that. He called him his friend.
My friend.
Lucas described Talon as the new Vader, with most of the action revolving around her, the role filled by Kylo Ren and Disney Star. So again, having one thing in common, i.e. two Sith, a master and apprentice, doesn't mean they have everything in common. There's nothing in common about that. Plus, if you're Darth Maul, Darth Talon, are you going to treat her like your kid? I don't know. Oh, this article's dumb. I'm not going to get into the details of some of this stuff. Exploring the Force on a deeper level. Disney's sequel trilogy developed the Force in new ways, from introducing new Force powers to explaining how the mystical energy field binds the galaxy together. Lucas would have taken this step further by exploring the microbiotic world of the Force. Building off ideas he first introduced in The Phantom Menace, who would have finally revealed the Wills were microscopic organisms that fed on the Force to survive, continuing to stress the symbiotic relationships that held all living creatures together. While admitting it sounds more scientific, Lucas believed it was still mythological, as most of the life that created the Force was one-celled organisms. How is that the same? How did the sequels delve deep into the Force? They didn't do anything. They just added new superpowers. They didn't delve into anything. Dealing with midichlorians and wills is not the same as being able to, all of a sudden being able to heal or not needing training or anything, or Luke projecting himself across space. Those are just Force powers. That's not getting deeper. And it has nothing to do with microbiotic will of the Force. So again, 0 for 4. Screen rant. What is this article? The whimsical planet designs. Tell me this one's one of them. The Force Awakens initially focused on planets that were evocative of the original trilogy, but the other two movies introduced planets that were with more creative and whimsical designs. Lucas would undoubtedly have created even more crazy worlds with different environments and colorful cultures, as he always liked to add new elements rather than make more of the same. The prequel trilogy was packed. Okay, sure. But I don't think that the sequel trilogy is even close to the level of the prequels in terms of whimsical and new. They're on Jakku a lot. And then they go to Pasana, which is another desert planet. Exegol's cool. What happened there sucked, but it's a cool planet. Cantonica is kind of cool, but we really only see the city of Cantobite, which you don't really see the landscape or anything of the planet, so who knows. This one here, I don't even remember what it's called, where they do their Force projection fight or whatever the heck it is. It was okay, I guess. There's some snow and stuff. But again, you're just in the city, you don't see much. And then, Crate's basically Hoth with sand instead of snow, which was kind of cool, I guess. But again, that's not... Of course he would have made whimsical planet designs, but I don't think the sequels really did all that well. A little bit. So again, that's none again. That's over. Another over. Redemption arcs. The Disney sequel trilogy contained plenty of characters' redemption arcs, something Lucas was known for in his first Star Wars movies. Finn, Ben, Han, and Luke all started at their lowest point, but ended up redeeming themselves and playing a critical role in the story. Since Lucas' 6-episode saga was about the fall and redemption of Anakin Skywalker, he probably at least had one or more he probably would have had... God, this is just nonsense. And the only reason that Han and Luke needed, quote, redemption arcs is because they were written like crap. They weren't even themselves. They were totally different people. Like Mark Hamill coined the phrase Jake Skywalker.
Jake Skywalker.
And Han was a shell of himself. He had no wit. He had no snap, no nothing. He made like one or two funny comments the whole thing. No. Again, that's another ofer. No. Like, maybe he would have had redemption arcs, but the only redemption arcs were, I guess, Ben, but he didn't even have an arc. Remember? I've said this so many times to people. It was not Leia. It was not the vision of Han. None of those things. Star Wars canon says specifically that it was when Rey healed Ben, she cleared his mind of the dark side, and that's when he became good. So he didn't even really have an arc back into good. He just became good again because she touched him and healed his lightsaber stab. Literally. So then Finn, well, he didn't really need a redemption arc. He was unwilling to be violent for the First Order. He left the First Order because they were being violent. How does that make any sense? And then you find out he was a janitor. So, what redemption arcs are you guys talking about? The only ones that were there were these stupid ones that they created, and then the other ones didn't exist. Number 4, the social, political, and religious commentary. Disney sequel trilogy featured a lot of social, political, and religious commentary, particularly in The Last Jedi, the Canto Bight. Subplot focused on war being a machine that benefits the rich. Luke was heavily critical, of the Jedi Order, and Vice Admiral Holdo's leadership was one of many examples that seem to challenge the Star Wars franchise's core themes. However, Lucas never shied away from integrating his beliefs and opinions into his movies, with the prequels addressing many of the same themes as The Last Jedi. Like what? Well, the plot of his sequel trilogy would have been different. He probably would have had more social... No, there was no social politics. And again, I've had these debates with people on Twitter. George Lucas made it very clear. He compared the United States to the Empire and the rebels to the Viet Cong, and that is called geopolitical, not social political. He would not have been worried about putting purple-haired people. He would not have been worried about people's sexuality. He didn't do stuff like that. He just made good movies. He didn't fuss around with stuff like that. So this is another absolute nonsense. And I've debated so many people. George Lucas always made it political. No, he didn't. Not socially political. No, he didn't. He wouldn't have had a robot in Lando fighting for robot rights. Are you kidding me?
Excuse me. Get your presumptuous ass out of my seat.
That would have ruined the movie. Come on, or whatever. Solo, sorry, but Lando's robot. Anyway, no, another O for 7 O's. Radically shaking things up in the second movie. The Last Jedi was incredibly divisive upon release and did the opposite of what most viewers expected. Even so, Johnson wasn't the first Star Wars director to go crazy with the sequel, as Lucas did the same with the original and prequel trilogies. The Empire Strikes Back was a dark sequel that took a different approach. The approach from A New Hope, while Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, had a 10-year time jump and went all in with the foreshadowing of Anakin's turn to the dark side. Okay, just because he took a different direction or he radically changed things up in the second movie doesn't mean it's the same as what Rian Johnson did. He shook things up all right. Yeah, he sure did. And the idea that just shaking things up is just what you do. No, first of all, Attack of the Clones wasn't a shake-up. It was just a foreshadowing of where Anakin was going. So that one's out of the way. It wasn't a shake-up at all. The Empire Strikes Back was a bit of a shake-up, but people loved it. People were overjoyed. It wasn't divisive. It wasn't incredibly divisive like what The Last Jedi is. Everyone loved it. When Vader said, "I'm your father," people literally pooped their pants. Come on. This article, this is just... Oh, no. Leia flying... Yeah, George would have had Leia flying through space, guys. Yep. I'm sure he would have. And again, I'm not a George Lucas sycophant. I think his treatments had major issues. I was not a fan, as I brought up one of them earlier. I did a video on it. So this has nothing to do with George worship. This is so stupid. This is so stupid. Leia using the Force to fly through space may have been Johnson's idea, but it feels like something that Lucas would have been willing to try. It sounds like something Lucas would have been... It feels like something Lucas would have been willing to try. Okay, buddy, sure. That's just making stuff up. After all, the Star Wars prequel said Force users surviving, falling through air traffic, fighting next to No, he timed his jump so that he wouldn't get hit, and then he was... man, that's part of being a Jedi. Fighting next to lava without dying from the heat, and even... Okay, that I'll give them that to an extent. That fight scene was way too long and way too drawn out and way too carried away anyway, but I will give them to an extent, but that's not the same as floating through space, dying from the heat. You know, if they started to feel burning, they would have just left. You don't just stand there and let yourself die like you're a villager in Minecraft. So no, that wouldn't work either. That's a different argument. And even cutting in half and falling down a shaft. What? He got cut in half and fell down a shaft. What does that have to do with the movies? The fact that he survived, that was in Clone Wars. I think it was dumb that he survived. It made no sense. So anyway, throw that one out. Considering the crazy stuff the Jedi could do in Lucas's project, Leia surviving in space feels straight. No, it does not feel out of his handbook. It feels out of a stupid idiot's handbook who is making things up as he goes along. He thought, "Ew, I'll make Leia fly. Everyone's going to love it." And then everyone hated it, and it's retarded and dumb. It defies everything. I don't care how Jedi you are. You can't survive the vacuum of space. This is terrible. So 0 for 9. Last one, Force dyad. God bless Screen Rant for these stupid articles I can comment on, because this is so bad. One of Abrams' ideas that feels like pure Lucas is Rey and Kylo's Force dyad, a bond between two individuals meant to bring balance. Feels like a natural extension of the Chosen One prophecy in the prequels, and Anakin's connection to the light and dark sides in the Mortis arc of Clone Wars. The Force dyad is one of the most fascinating aspects of Disney Star Wars sequel trilogy and feels like something... No, it's not. It's not. And it was completely made up after the fact. How did Rey know how to be so powerful? Well, because they're a dyad, so she downloaded everything Kylo learned, so she didn't need trade. Like, they literally made it up because they had to justify how powerful she was. Don't you guys understand that? J.J. Abrams said they didn't have a plan, so this dyad thing came up later. It wasn't written into the script. They just made it up because they felt like they had to, and then they wanted to appease Reylos because they were losing on basically every group of fans. So they said, well, let's just give the Reylos something, and then somebody will be happy. And then they made them mad in the end anyway because Ben dies. So the whole thing, this is nonsense. There's no way he would have went dyad. Dyad is like the laziest explanation for why Rey was so powerful, and they went with it. Anyways, you guys let me know in the comment section. So this is an 0 for 10. Nothing in the sequels. I don't think George would have done any of it. And this is the most bullcrap article. This is just sequel apologists trying to compare the garbage of the sequels that George hates to his original creation. And just trying to justify the sequels by saying, oh, well, George would have done... No. Like, this is so stupid. Anyways, guys, let me know in the comment section what you think. Do you like any of these 10 things they did anyway, just yourself? And do you really think that George would have went down any of those roads whatsoever the way they did it? This article is very misleading, the way that they sort of word things and stuff. Very interesting. So who's this guy? Nathaniel Rourke. Good job at trying to manipulate the conversation, but it ain't going to work because nobody believes this. Unless you do. If you do, I want you to comment and tell me why you believe this. This is funny. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe if you do like the content. Check out any of my other stuff on my channel. Lots of Star Wars content, some other stuff as well. And thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.